Good morning, good evening, friends. If you are someone who wants to embark onto the AI ML journey, but you have been holding back because of your non familiarity on the various machine learning algorithms or your initial inertia on getting onto the coding space, I have an exciting response to you. In the recently concluded AWS reInvent, just a couple of weeks back, they have introduced several features which are primarily targeted towards people like you who have the interest but the fear, or probably uh, the unknown, right? The fear of the unknown. So in this video, which is like a part one of a series, I'm going to introduce 5 new features which got rolled on in the recently concluded reInvent, and followed by videos wherein we will see the implementation of it. So the very first feature is called as an AutoPilot. What is an AutoPilot? So if you have a problem statement and you have a data with you, but you don't know which algorithm to select, the AutoPilot will do that work for you. What you need to do is you need to say that this is my data set and this is how the output will look like, and I want to train a model with the best algorithm. Then the AutoPilot will do a part of pre-processing of the data and then select the right algorithm and give you as an output. It is not only a black box solution, but rather it will give you the generated code so that you can use that code for further training. So now you know which algorithm to be made use of. Once you have that algorithm which is decided, the logical extension of it will be a new feature called as experiment. So now you have a algorithm. The algorithm will take different parameters as input, and depending on that parameters, the output may vary. Technically, we call that as hyperparameters. So this new feature called experiment, what it does is it starts tuning, or it starts running that algorithm with different combination of the input parameters, and then compares the efficiency and tells you this is the best combination for the parameters. So for example, if you are familiar with the KNN, K nearest neighbor algorithm, K is one of the hyperparameter, wherein K is defined as the number of cluster. Now the experiment service will tell you for this value of K, or for this many features, you will get the highest efficiency. A, you can do it visually or the manually, or B, it can be done programmatically, wherein through an SDK, it can select the right model and even deploy it to the endpoint. So basically, now you're not going to program it, but you're going to orchestrate the entire set of events. So the heavy lifting is taken up by the SageMaker. Then the third feature which we are now talking about is debugging. So debugging is not your conventional debugger, but rather as the model gets trained during various layers, what happens? What is the intermediate output? What is the intermediate efficiency? So the debugger starts saving this in an S3, and it helps you to know at which layer probably the model is going off track. And in case of very expensive training algorithms, right, you don't want a particular training job to keep running when at some point in the middle, when you know that this efficiency will not work for you, or this is not what you are looking at, then you can even tag this debugger with a cloud watch and say that when this threshold exceeds, kill that job. So basically, you need not wait for the job to complete to know, oh, this doesn't work. But by that time, your resources have been utilized and you have been billed for it. Rather, you can kill it at the stage where it exceeds the threshold, right? Number 4, that is something which I personally liked. It's called as model monitor. So now you have built a model, you have deployed it. Now this model was trained on a certain set of data which follows certain variation or certain distribution. Now in the real world, what happens is as the model starts predicting with the input data which is coming in, the data might change the distribution and you will have an outdated model. And in today's world, you will predict it only when your output is consistently varying and it is not actually in sync with what it should be. Then you go ahead and retrain it or probably retire it. In Model Monitor, you can do it in a much better way. Model Monitor takes in all the input data which is coming in from the real world. It compares with the baseline of the training data and then tells you saying that you know what, you trained this model for this distribution, but basically your real-time data is changed a lot. It is time for you to either retrain it or retire it. And all this is based on the statistical evidence. So now you can build an alarm to notify you when there is a larger deviation of the in-stream data. The last feature which I'm covering in this particular topic is the SageMaker Studio, something very similar to your Visual Studio, wherein you can do drag and drop and you can have features. Basically, the coding is being taken at the back end. You need to only be more concerned about the sequence of steps. And it also opens up for collaboration. So you can now share your Jupyter notebook with your colleague in the project and even share runtime libraries. So this is making it more and more exciting, right? So let me summarize. You have an AutoPilot which will select the algorithm for you. It can be done even programmatically. Number two, experiments wherein it will run different versions or different trials with a different combination of hyperparameters and will come and tell you which is the right combination. Number three, you have something called Debugger, which will help you to understand at each stage what is happening and helps you to kill the job if it is not satisfying your threshold parameters. Number four, Model Monitor, which will help you to understand whether your model is still relevant and whether it is time to retrain or retire it. Number five is your SageMaker Studio, which is similar to your Visual Studio. In the subsequent videos, I'm planning to introduce each one of these features in a hands-on way, and even we will have few meetups coming up in the early part of 2020 wherein we want to take this across. If you have questions or your comments, please post it up. Thank you. Have a nice day.